it's hard to find a kid with ADHD in today's world that's not screen addicted. And that's pretty much it. If you have ADHD, you really have to have little to no screens in your life. And the way I describe it to parents is, let's say you're blessed with a child with diabetes or Crohn's or celiac, whatever it may be. You need to have a very specific type of kitchen and cupboard and grocery list. If you are blessed with a child with ADHD, you just can't have screens in the house. You can't have an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Switch.
Haven't you had that thought before? Man, I wish there was a handbook for this. Now there is. You're listening to the Healthy Parenting Handbook podcast. I'm Katie Kimball from Kids Cook Real Food, and I bring together experts in the fields of health, parenting, nutrition, and more to help parents get the information you need to raise healthy, independent adults. Parenting truly is the toughest and the most rewarding job in the world. Thank you for joining me to consult this Healthy Parenting Handbook, your guide to raising kids intentionally. My friends, would you please leave an honest review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen? If I can handle people commenting on my TEDx that I sound like a Disney character reading a book with too much energy, I can handle anything. We just want to hear your honest feedback. If it's positive, it'll help other people find us. And if it's constructive, I'm ready for it because I always want to make things better. My guest today is a lot like that. He is a man on a mission. Michael McLeod developed the internal skills executive functioning strengthening model, and Grow Now, with the mission to improve quality of life for youth and families with ADHD. As a respected keynote speaker, Mike has presented this model to audiences nationwide and internationally, offering specialized support for ADHD, executive functioning, social executive functioning, and parent coaching. Mike brings over 2 decades of experience working with youth and families affected by ADHD and executive function challenges. With a master's degree from Lehman College in New York and international experience collaborating with nonprofits and ADHD organizations, Mike has developed a comprehensive understanding of neurodevelopmental support. For 10 years, Mike has learned valuable insights from leading doctors and neuropsychologists, deepening his expertise in ADHD and executive function research. This experience and his years of hands-on work led Mike to develop the innovative Grow Now treatment model. That's a mouthful. And you know what? Mike has just as much energy as me, and he is so wise. I cannot wait for you to learn from him. Quite honestly, whether you have someone in your family with ADHD or neurodivergence or not, because a lot of these tips and strategies and honestly knowledge bombs not only apply to kids with ADHD, but they are very important for brain functioning and important for all of us to understand, to create empathy for those families who are helping their child with ADHD gain better executive functioning skills. All right, so glad to be here with Mike McLeod. I know his messages about ADHD and neurodivergence will resonate so much. Thanks for being here, Mike.
I am so excited to be here. I love everything you're doing, Katie. Love the Let Kids Cook and Life Skills Now. You really work very hard to spread some really great evidence-based, crucial information to families. So it's a privilege to be here with you.
Well, gee, thanks. Do you just want to trade spots so you can be the host and I'll be
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if I could do the kind of work you do. I think you work a little bit harder than I do.
All right. Well, I'm going to interview you and we'll benefit from your wisdom. But where did this all start? Because you've been working with kids and adults with ADHD for 20 years. How'd you get started?
Yeah. So I've been working with youth my entire life. I've worked at probably 10 to 15 different summer camps and different centers. I worked at a residential treatment facility for a long time over in New York, where I grew up. And then I eventually became a speech and language pathologist. And long story short, during my career as an SLP, a speech and language pathologist, I ended up working with this group called the Focus Foundation down in Annapolis, Maryland, that worked with boys with chromosomal disorders and various other diverse needs. And from there, I learned very quickly that there's very little out there for boys with ADHD. I was late diagnosed myself with ADHD and struggled with it in many different ways throughout my life. So I was incredibly motivated to just soak in all the information and learn from these great doctors and neuropsychs about ADHD and executive functioning. And from all that work, I developed what I call the Grow Now internal skills treatment model for executive functions, resiliency, life skills, independence. We did a year-long research study on it out here at a private school called the Stratford Friends School in Newtown Square of Pennsylvania. And from the great success of that great study, everything's kind of expanded from there. And we now serve families and students all across the country and internationally, all ages up until college and young adult and failure to launch and college success program. And it's really all about, helping students to become more independent, positive, and successful with fading adult support. So we have very similar missions.
Yeah, that fading adult support. I love that. I call it in parenting, I call it the gradual release of responsibility, but those are basically synonyms. This is what everyone wants. Everyone wants our kids to be able to take over for themselves and to do well and to not be handcuffed or pulled back by a diagnosis or, what some may see as an insufficiency. But let's start with some definitions. Everybody knows what life skills is. Everybody knows what failure to launch is. But what is executive function and what goes sideways for some kids?
So that is a really great question. I'm so glad that we're opening with that because most people hear the term executive functioning and the first two words they think of are time management and organization.
Okay.
And those are two very, very outdated views on what executive functioning really is. So executive functions are the greatest predictor of success for human beings, period. They are the most crucial set of skills that any person can develop throughout life, more important than grades, GPA, high school degree, college degree. If you don't have executive functions, it's going to be very hard for you to get a job, keep a job, make friends, keep friends, and live independently.
Wow.
So executive functions are an internal set of skills that create all of these external symptoms that we focused on for years and years, like time management, organization, messy backpacks, messy folders. I like to refer to executive functions as the 4 pillars of internal skills. The first is self-awareness, which is the ability to be aware of oneself, to understand your strengths, your needs, how your choices impact yourself, and how your choices impact others. So full self-awareness. So like, for example, when parents call me to learn about Grow Now services, every single parent has the exact same concern, is how the heck am I going to get my son or my daughter to agree to do this? They're totally against all coaching, all therapy, everything. And I have to remind them, yeah, it's a disorder of self-awareness. They don't think they have a problem. They think their parents are just annoying and on their back all the time. So there's self-awareness, which is the first executive skill to develop in infancy. Then you have self-regulation, which is really the foundation of all executive functioning. This is what parents see the most, the ability to regulate your emotions, your language, your body, your behavior in various environments. Then you have self-motivation, of course, towards non-preferred tasks, non-screen-based tasks, non-stimulating tasks. Can they motivate themselves to do things that don't offer instant gratification, which is pretty much every important task in life? And then you have, of course, self-evaluation, the ability to learn from past experiences and apply it to the present moment. So for years, we thought executive functioning was messy backpacks, messy folders, but think about it. You're going to have messy backpacks and messy folders unless you're first self-aware that that's even a problem to begin with. And then you're regulated and motivated enough to do that incredibly boring task of organizing the backpack. And then you self-evaluate and realize, hey, next period I have my science class. I'm going to be the last one to pull the science notebook out. Everyone else is going to do it right away. And I'm going to pull out all these dirty, wrinkly papers. And I'm not going to like how that feels. So we have to have these internal skills that create these external symptoms.
I'm thinking about one of my 3rd grade students because before I did this online stuff, I was a 3rd grade teacher.
Nice.
And oh my goodness, we had to have like parent meetings about his backpack.
Yep.
Such a nice kid, bright, great personality, backpack disaster. And honestly, I'm looking around at my own desk and you're saying like, you have to care that it's a problem. I'm like, okay.
You can be an organized mess. So my area is also it's clean in my eyes, and I'm sure it's clean in your eyes. Like, you know where everything is. You're obviously very proficient and very organized and very productive. So, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, as they say.
Mm-hmm. But that non-preferred tasks, I've noticed in your writing that you really hit on that. It's not about the ability to focus. It's not about the ability to self-motivate. It's the ability to do those things and more on non-preferred tasks, right?
Which is all the important things. Everything is in terms of, school and studying and homework and showering, brushing your teeth, making friends and being
Mm.
flexible with peers and keeping friends long term, applying to college, doing well in college, applying to jobs, interviewing, getting a job,
I'm so
living.
bored already.
Yeah,
Stop talking.
all of these things. So when you have a child who's growing up on screens, which is the vast majority of American children at this point, their brains are getting hardwired towards instant gratification. They're not learning how to independently, internally self-regulate and self-motivate. They're only doing it externally via the screen. It's a recipe for disaster. And this is the foundation of today's youth mental health crisis we're currently seeing is, the opposite of how often kids are outdoors versus how much they're indoors on screens. Their brains are not ready for life, and they're being shipped off to all these places after high school, after schooling is done, and they're just not ready for it because their entire childhood was spent in the virtual world.
Are you seeing, or have you seen over the last 20 years, do you believe that there has been a shift that our screen based society is causing an increase in ADHD or a decrease in executive functioning skills?
So ADHD is hereditary. So
Okay.
screen time is not going to cause ADHD. Screen time does cause ADHD symptoms, which is what kind of blurs those lines, but definitely the lack of executive functioning. So ADHD is a true neurodiverse population. Their brain is different in structure, function, and development, and it is most often hereditary. So ADHD is a true brain difference. And what kind of blurs the line a little bit is ADHD is not an attention disorder. It's not attention deficit. It's executive functioning developmental disorder. ADHD is a disorder of executive functioning. And being on screens all day, every day, learning to self regulate through screens, spending your life in the virtual world is going to create a significant delay in the executive functioning system. So if you're on screens all the time, it's going to be very hard for you to go through that boring, non-stimulating things in life, which is morning routine, homework, evening routine, those three things that are the bane of every parent's resistance. So all of those things, existence. And overall, being on screens all the time delays the development of these skills because kids aren't having real childhoods. It's the screen-based childhood, the phone-based childhood versus the play-based childhood. We've gotten stuck in this mindset that kids learn through direct instruction, that kids need to be taught every skill in life. Kids actually learn the most crucial set of skills in life, executive functions, through play, through unstructured time, through being bored, learning how to self regulate, learning how to self motivate, playing with peers outdoors, experiencing nature, having to deal with discomfort, having to deal with struggle. All of these things that we are now shielding kids by shutting them up by putting an iPad in front of them or a video games or a phone or YouTube. And the more time they spend in the virtual world, the less real world skills they're going to have. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
And I mean, kids with ADHD or neurodivergence and kids without ADHD are mostly, I think, being parented the same way in the screen based childhood. Does that affect the ADHD brain differently?
Of course, absolutely. So the
Okay.
ADHD brain produces much less dopamine. In so
Mm.
many ways, the ADHD brain is the addict brain. The ADHD is highly correlated to drug addictions. And let's face it, these screens are a drug. Period. When I work with parents through my parent training program, and we let them know, hey, you have to significantly decrease screens, or you have to eliminate them from your house, you instantly just see white fear come over the parent's face. And if I said to them, get rid of the books, get rid of the magazines, get rid of the Legos, get rid of the action figures, they would be like, okay, fine, no problem. But because it's the screens, they know how hard it's going to be and how bad the behaviors are going to be. And let's be honest, these behaviors are withdrawal behaviors. Your kid is
Mm.
withdrawing from a drug. They get such a massive dopamine hit every time they swipe an iPad, hit a controller, watch a YouTube short, do Snapchat, do TikTok. They are drugs. And these people in big tech, these people in Silicon Valley know that they are drugs. They're purposefully going after kids with ADHD, executive functioning challenges, whatever it may be, because they know they get most easily hooked. So, yes, those big wig people over at big tech, they see ADHD diagnoses rates skyrocketing, and they see dollar signs. They
Mm.
want to go after, attention is the currency. And if you
Mm.
have ADHD, it's it's hard to find a kid with ADHD in today's world that's not screen addicted. And that's pretty much it. If you have ADHD, you really have to have little to no screens in your life. And the way I describe it to parents is, let's say you're blessed with a child with diabetes or Crohn's or celiac, whatever it may be. You need to have a very specific type of kitchen and cupboard and grocery list. If you are blessed with a child with ADHD, you just can't have screens in the house. You can't have an Xbox, a PlayStation, a Switch, a family computer that's just open access to the internet. You can't give them a phone until way late in high school. You have to be very, very careful, or it's going to really take over their lives.
Can you tell me a little bit about how people think the ADHD brain works? Because, I mean, what I've noticed when I go into my kids' classrooms, the kids who are struggling the most, who are clearly neurodivergent, seem to be the kids where the teachers give them more screen time just to keep them occupied. What's wrong there? Like in the brain.
So obviously, ed tech is the worst thing to ever happen to school, and that's saying something. So all of these personal laptops, a lot of your tax dollars now are going towards kids watching YouTube and being on screens all day at school. These gamified curriculums, these personal laptops, it
Mm.
is terrible. I probably observed close to 200 classrooms this past school year,
Wow.
and not once was I in a room in a laptop filled classroom where kids were not doing their own thing. They're either
They're
talking
not
to
on task.
yeah, no, they're chatting
Mm.
on Google Docs, they're playing, they're watching YouTube, they're online shopping, we have high
Oh my
schoolers playing
gosh.
Roblox in the middle of class. It's
It's
a
because
mess.
you're not talking like Microsoft Word and spreadsheets.
Oh
Like
no.
those would be okay, but it's that the same devices have the games and the internet and the social
Yeah.
media and the chats.
Yeah, and then you go to the school and you say, "Hey, can you block all non-educational sites?" And the school will come back with, "Oh, but they have to learn how to resist. They have to learn how
Oh,
to manage their screen time."
so that's a myth.
That is beyond it. It's impossible. Their brain's not there yet. That's like teaching a kindergartner algebra. It's
Mm.
not possible. You're giving a teenager a laptop with open access to the internet, and you're saying, "Hey, listen to this boring lecture about the Civil War and resist going on your favorite website." It's not going to happen. It's literally
Mm.
like you're basically putting a bottle of alcohol in front of an alcoholic and saying don't drink it. It's the same thing. It's completely ridiculous. It's beyond a myth. It's impossible. And it's parents need to stop hearing that from school administrators. But overall, the ADHD brain struggles in those areas of self-regulation and self-motivation. So the ADHD brain is time blind and it is stuck in the now. They are lacking hindsight, where they can learn from past experiences and apply it to the present. And they're lacking foresight, future thinking skills, so they can visualize the future, feel the future, and better plan, prioritize, problem solve, and delay gratification. So they are looking for the most stimulating thing here in the now, here in the moment. And we live in a world where two things are pretty much constantly available to them. Number one, screens. So let me just be on screens all day. I'm not concerned about the test coming up, so I should probably listen or get this work done. And number two, conflict. So there's screens and conflict, and their brains are conflict seeking because that also gives them a dopamine rush. And who gets the most conflict? Who sees the most ADHD behaviors? Parents. So parents
Mm.
see the worst of ADHD behaviors. ADHD is not really a school-based disorder the majority of the time.
Mm.
Yes, ADHD kids struggle at school. It's really a home-based disorder, which is why parent training is the number one recommendation by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Parents have to be trained on how to best parent this child because the home is where you see the majority of ADHD behaviors.
That's fascinating because I think that's another myth too. Parents are like, "Oh, we got to talk to the teacher. If the teacher says they're struggling, we'll go get a med from the pediatrician," and like almost just cut out the parent in that loop.
Oh yeah, the vast majority of parents will reach out to the teacher and
Yeah.
say, and with all the concerns that the parents are seeing in terms of morning routine, homework, evening routine, no friends, constant arguing,
Mm.
constant negotiating, and the teacher will be like, Wow, I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't see that kid at all. I can't believe that's happening, and that's the majority. That's over 50%. Yes, a lot of ADHD kids struggle at school,
Sure.
where you're going to need the appropriate accommodations and supports and increased consequences. Increased consequences at school are more important than accommodations. So there's three areas of executive functioning: academic, which is being a good student, getting your work done, such and such; home executive functioning, which is self-regulation towards parents and the ability to do non-preferred, non-screen-based tasks in the home; and then social executive functioning,
Mm.
which is making friends, keeping friends, perspective taking skills.
And ADHD brains struggle with all of those.
Most often. So,
Okay.
if you find someone who struggles in all three areas, that's what you call severe ADHD.
Mm.
Typically, you see them struggle in one or two, but if they struggle in all three and they're just on screens all day and they struggle in all three areas, that's a very serious problem.
Sure. And the screens are going to exacerbate what's already happening. So
Yes.
let's talk positive here. I think we've dispelled some myths. I love everything you teach. So you have what you call the internal skills executive function strengthening model because you like to raise the bar. So it's like 15, 20 syllables,
You got it.
That's your jam. Like, obviously, we can't go through everything that you teach parents to help kids self regulate, self evaluate, but could you sneak us out a couple tips? Like, if I'm a parent and I'm realizing, okay, ADHD is a home based problem, what's my home based solution?
Of course. Yeah. So the number one tip in all of parent training for executive functioning ADHD is use less language. 100%. So every single parent of an ADHD child finds themselves prompting, 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 prompting. You are your child's executive functioning. Without you, nothing gets done. And these parents get stuck in these traps of just verbal prompt, lecture, lecture, words, words, words. And the more you do that, the more you dysregulate your child. Language makes dysregulation worse. So the more you talk at them, the more you prompt them, the more you lecture them, it's going to make things worse. So what you actually need to do at its core, ADHD is a disorder of nonverbal working memory. That's the foundation of all executive functioning, which is the visual imagery system of the brain, the ability to hold images in mind and manipulate them, both with our past, which is our memories, and our future, which is our imagination, which is why play is so important for ADHD. So what you have to do is replace all of your verbal prompting with visuals. Instead of saying, go clean your room, give them a picture of what their room looks like when it's clean. Instead of saying, go do your homework, get a picture of them doing their homework and provide them that picture. So show them what they're supposed to look like when they're doing the task, and that triggers nonverbal working memory. Your verbal prompting is actually triggering their fight flight response, where, like, think about it. If you say to a child, go put your shoes on, go clean your room, go do your homework, what's more stimulating to the conflict, negative attention seeking brain of ADHD? Should they just go do what you say and hear a quick good job? Or should they run around the house and do the opposite of what you're asking them to do, so the parent chases them around for hours and hours and hours? That's what they have to think about. This is why the ADHD brain would rather get into a 5-hour fight than do
Mm.
5 minutes of homework.
That is, I guarantee parents are like, I got to stop walking or folding laundry and write this stuff down
You got it.
because it's so revolutionary. You talked about play and how important play is. So let's hit that a little bit. If we're taking away the screens, with what do we fill that void?
You fill that time with boredom. So parents need to understand 100% you are not the entertainment system for your child. You are not in any way, shape, or form the person who needs to structure your child's day and give them things to do and give them all these options and get on their level and ask them how they're feeling and all this nonsense. No, you let them be bored, you let them struggle, and they will figure it out. Kids are resilient. No one has a greater imagination than a child. Kids are anti-fragile. Let them be bored. Let them figure it out. And that's what helps them develop these crucial skills is boredom. Boredom and play are like going to the gym for your brain. So boredom and play, you can make a pretty strong argument. Boredom and play are far more important than anything they're going to do in school. If you have a child who can persevere through boredom, who can go and play outside and has friends and can go ride bikes and find their way home and go run errands and just be outside for hours and come back when the street lights come on, that's a kid who is going to be successful after 12th grade. That's a kid who's going to be able to make a job, make friends, keep friends. Not a kid with a good GPA or whatever. We need kids to be able to be bored, persevere through boredom. So when your kid comes to you and says, I'm bored, they're looking for a power struggle. They're looking for negotiation. They're looking to pull you in. Do not fall for it. They say, I'm bored. Either literally run away from them as fast as you can, or say, too bad, say, figure it out. You're a kid, go figure it out. I am your parent. I am not your entertainer. I'm not your stand-up comedian. I am not any of these things. You go be bored, you go outside and you play. And guess what, parents? The outside world is safer than ever. Do not listen to the 24-hour news cycle. The outdoors, playing in the neighborhood, riding bikes, going places has never been safer. All the dangerous people, the facts are, they're now on Minecraft and Roblox and
There
Fortnite.
we go.
Yeah, they're on those things. That's where they're finding people. They're on Snapchat, they're on Discord, they're on all of those things. So what you need to do is let your kids go outside, contact other parents, do your little neighborhood watch, do whatever you got to do, put an Apple AirTag in their shoe, do whatever you got to do, but let your kids go outside and have a 90s childhood, and you will see a child develop more skills. And this summer coming up, right now we're recording this, it's April. This summer coming up, if you give your child a 90s childhood, I guarantee you're going to have a much smoother school year next year in terms of morning routine, evening routine, and homework. There's no reason for your child to have a second of screens. And when I say screens are bad, I mean touch screens, video games, and the internet. They can sit and watch TV. There was no youth mental health crisis when TV was the only screen in the house. Just get rid of YouTube off the smart TV, because then they end up watching videos of other people playing video games for some reason. So that ends up happening. Yes. So get rid of the screens. Let them play outside, drop them off at the pool, drop them off at the park, contact other parents, get a little neighborhood group together, get them in a screen-free sleepaway camp. Do what you got to do, and you are going to set yourself up for a lot of success.
Now, Mike, I gotta say, I am a little bit of an old-fashioned person here, a little 80s, 90s. When my kids say they're bored, I say, I have some chores you can do, and then they scatter, so I don't have to run away.
Love it.
But, life skills and teaching chores is very important to me. So where does that come in? Like, should parents of kids with ADHD still encourage chores and responsibility, or should that be skipped?
Oh my gosh, there is literally over 100 years of evidence that kids who do chores and have household responsibilities end up being the most capable, well-adjusted, positive self-image, positive self-worth. Kids need to feel important. They need to have a role in the house instead of the person who's just getting nagged all the time. Make these things an expectation and not a choice. The biggest mistake I see parents make is they're constantly trying to dangle carrots over their kid's head. Like, oh, if you clean your room, you get extra screen time, or you get this, or you get that, or do this and you get screen time. Don't do it, you'll lose screen time. And it's just constant empty threats. You need to make these things an expectation and not a choice. So make a list of expectations, whether it's taking the garbage out, cleaning, vacuuming, cleaning the bathroom, running errands, whatever. And basically just set up 50-50 social reciprocity, where you have a list of expectations of what your child's supposed to do, eliminate all screens so you're not using them as a carrot. And then when your child inevitably comes to you and asks for something, you basically say to them, hey, did you finish your list? Did you do what you needed to do first? One of the best things that kids will learn from their parents is social reciprocity and understanding 50-50 relationships. Obviously, the parent-child relationship will never be 50-50. Obviously, it's a child, it's a dependent, let's be honest. But overall, teach them, you need to take care of your responsibilities first before I do for you, before I do these extra things for you. And it goes a very long way.
That's interesting. I do when my youngest is 10, and he's the baby of the family. He owns it. He acts like it. And he'll come down for breakfast and just climb into the chair and sit. And I'll say, did you bring a tip for your waitress? Like, what is going on here? Like, you look like you're at a restaurant. I have to be sarcastic, because if you don't have humor in your parenting, like my brain would not survive. Yeah. I know that some kids, they tend to thrive at school because of structure.
Yep.
Because of expectations. I also know that you talk a lot about no structure. Don't give your kids day structure. is there a middle ground, or are there certain times you need structure and certain times you don't? How does structure work in an ADHD household?
Yeah, so it really all depends on the child overall. So
Mm-hmm.
really, it's not even so much about like, yes, there's structure, and the ADHD brain does well with structure at school, which is why you tend to see more behaviors at home than at school. But also, it's the relationships. So at school, it's conditional relationships. It's peers that can choose not to be your friend, not to engage with you, not to do these things. It's teachers that are, hey, if you do the wrong thing, you're going to get in trouble. At home, you have unconditional relationships.
Mm.
You have the only two unconditional love relationships in that child's life. And the ADHD brain has a very hard time comprehending unconditional love. The ADHD brain is very rigid, very black and white, and there's nothing more fluid and gray and like magical than unconditional love. So the ADHD brain is like, here's this person I can say unspeakable things to and do absolutely nothing for, and they're always going to love me and always going to take care of me. So you give them an inch and they take 50 miles. They really pull it and
Okay.
pull it and pull it. It's really, after school, yeah, you want to have things like homework be structured. You want to have, chores be structured, things like that. But, you giving your child unstructured time where they're on their own to figure it out, on their own to be bored, on their own to use their imagination, on their own to go play with peers or play in the backyard or play in the park. That's one of the most beautiful things parents can do for kids. So yes, they thrive with structure at school, but and they learn through that structure at school. But you can make a pretty strong argument they're learning more and their brains are developing more and wiring more when they're at home and persevering through unstructured time. So recess time, lunch time, gym class, those are really, when you look back on your high school experience as an adult now, you're going to have a lot more memories of recess, lunch, and gym than you are of math, science, and social studies, because those were, character defining, skill defining moments for people to get out there and get out of your comfort zone and be uncomfortable and try new things.
Or at least like group projects. Like my
Yeah.
brain just flashed to a bunch
Yeah.
of like friction-full group projects. Ooh.
Yep.
They were
Yep.
hard.
Anytime you bring another personality into it, anytime you bring a peer or a social aspect to it, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
So, parents need to step back so kids can step up.
Oh, I love that. How does this apply to homeschooling families? The kids are always at home. Any different advice for them?
Yeah, so if you ever have an opportunity, like from my experience, what I love about homeschool is every single homeschool is different.
Right.
Every single one has their own unique things. And, with the state of education these days, with ed tech and, things getting more rigorous, like the kindergarten of today is like the third grade of 10 years ago, it's a mess. So, I've had the pleasure and the privilege of joining up and partnering with so many various homeschools across the country. And homeschools today, like you're seeing homeschool rates skyrocket. And quite frankly, they're doing it better than a lot of the schools can because there's so much red tape and regulation and too much technology in the schools these days. The best homeschools I've seen for ADHD kids are the ones that are more of like a co-op where it's multiple kids and, maybe, a separate teacher. One of the best things to do with homeschool is to try not to be the parent teacher. Try to have
Oh,
somebody else be the teacher. It's very, very hard for that unconditional love relationship to play the role of the teacher. So if you can get someone else, get the kids in a little outdoor co-op and hire like a part-time teacher to work with a large, a handful of kids,
mm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kids, that's always best. But if you have to do it where you're the parent teacher, try to, do it in a separate environment than the typical living is after school. Try to have like a separate room or a separate area or a separate outdoor space where they're learning and having those things, and just keep it as structured as possible. Have structured homeschool and then unstructured outside of homeschool. It's very hard to say do it this way or do it that way, because part of what makes homeschool so great is that every single one is so different. But I see homeschool rates skyrocketing, and every time I go and observe a public school or a private school classroom, I understand it. And I applaud a lot of these parents that are having the
Mm.
bravery to start homeschools, to pull their kids out and get involved in these things.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, around here, Kids Cook Real Food and Life Skills Now, we're obviously huge fans of getting kids in the kitchen, having family dinners, building those life skills. How do you see those situations as a positive arena to build executive functioning
Oh
skills?
my gosh, there are a few things more positive than that, and this is why I love you and I love your mission and everything you're doing. It's incredible. Like that is literally like think of how an important of a life skill that is for kids to understand nutrition and cooking and getting involved in the kitchen and doing things for yourself and not relying on others. Those are true life skills, and you can make a pretty strong argument that kids learning how to cook, kids learning to understand food, understanding how to be self-sufficient is far more important than anything they're going to learn in a rigid curriculum for math and science and social studies, especially in this world of AI and technology. Things like cooking for yourself and understanding food and being self sufficient, having executive functioning skills, having soft skills will never, ever be replaced by AI. They're always going to need those things. If you are the kind of parent that sets up that kind of structure where kids are involved in the cooking process, involved in the cleaning process, involved in the responsibilities of the home, I applaud you. You're doing it right. That is definitely the way to do it. And follow Katie and follow her program. It is a really magical thing. Anytime you see a kid with real skills, the ability to cook for themselves and do these things, real talents and real interests, it's amazing how I can't tell you how many students I've worked with where parents eliminate screens and the kids end up getting involved in sports, cooking,
Okay.
cleaning, whatever. And then the kid ends up doing so well. They're doing well at school. They're not arguing. They have lots of friends. And parents are like, hey, you're doing great. I think you're now mature enough for a phone. I think you're now mature enough for an Xbox. I think you're mature enough for these things. And I can't tell you how many kids are like, actually, no, mom, I don't want that. I don't want it. I don't want the Xbox. There was one kid that I used to work with years ago who was just so addicted to his Xbox, so addicted to Fortnite. Parents took it away,
Hmm.
and he ended up gaining all these talents, all these skills, all these friends, did better at school, felt better about himself. And then a couple of months went by, and mom said, hey, I'm going to give you your Xbox back. And he was like, actually, mom, I want to invite all my friends in the backyard and I want to blow it up. And that's
What?
exactly what he did. He didn't want it anymore because he liked how much of how he felt. And he was involved in the kitchen. He was involved in the cooking and the cleaning and
Wow.
everything. So that's why I'm such a huge fan of your work, Katie, and the work that you're doing and all the programs you're setting out there. It's not this fluffy parenting nonsense you get
Hmm.
so much on Instagram and social media with this low demand parenting. We need to keep expectations high. Set the bar high for your kid, ADHD or not, and they will reach that bar.
Oh, that is music to my ears, to be sure. I know my oldest is nearly 20 and he's going away this weekend to a hunting camp with no running water, no electricity. And these like 19, 20-year-old boys, all six of them are pledging to keep the phones in the car and
I
they're not
love
going
it.
to get them out. They're bringing a digital camera
I love it.
even for photography. So I think we're seeing it's always everything's a pendulum shift in culture, And with technology, we went all in. Everyone had all the tools and all the screens and all the things. And so now we're seeing this pushback of like the youth who are seeing, gosh, maybe this isn't the way we were meant to be. Maybe we don't like this. We're going to push back. Man, I hope the pendulum can find like the right place where that's always
I
my
sure hope
goal.
so. We need to do it because this youth mental health crisis is the worst in
Mm,
history. All the very scary
mm,
things in terms of diagnoses rates, medication, suicide, self harm, all of these things are absolutely skyrocketing, and you can literally trace it back to when the iPhone was announced, when
oh
Facebook
yeah.
came out, when the like button came out, when Instagram came out. Everyone likes to talk about all these different things, like just all these different reasons because they don't want to admit that it's the screens because it involves a lot of
Mm,
behaviors taking them away. It is
right.
100% the screens and the decline and extinction of the play-based childhood, period. End of story. Outdoor play was replaced with screens and the youth mental health crisis began.
I believe it.
Yep.
What do you think? What should parents do like in the car? Shouldn't the kids be able to like, watch a show and play on their tablet for
Nope.
the 5-minute ride home? I'm asking in all deep
Nope.
sarcasm.
Not
No.
in it. Nope. The car should be 100% screen free. Car rides, bus rides, everything. That's one of the best times for kids to look out the window, use their imagination, think about their day, think about what they're going to do when they get home. So
Mm.
they stop being time blind. They stop being stuck in the moment. They
Oh.
review their past, they forecast into the future, and they learn how to self-regulate. We all did it as kids and we turned out fine. So you can do the same for your kids.
So boredom is the antidote for the time blindness that comes with the ADHD brain.
It's the antidote for
Or
everything.
empty
It's the
space.
antidote
Oh.
for self-regulation and self-motivation, everything. Boredom is like going to the gym for your brain. So
Uh-huh.
boredom is strengthening the muscles of the brain. Boredom is not something to fix by entertaining your kid and giving them activities and things to do. They
Mm.
need to be bored. Boredom is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give their child.
I tell you, I kind of feel it in myself. 'Cause, I mean, I work on a screen. I'm sitting here. I'm not like playing a video game necessarily, right? But nonetheless, I'm on the screen. I have lots of tabs. I have 3 monitors. There's plenty of stimulation here when I'm sitting at my desk. And I might be working and you can just feel sort of getting in the dregs and losing focus. And then I'll go fill my water, go to the bathroom, do some dishes, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like clarity just blows up in my brain. And I'm like, oh, I need to do this thing.
Well, you have a fully developed brain. You know to go take a break and go do
Yeah.
the dishes and go do things. Kids can't do that. They'll sit on
Mm.
Fortnite, YouTube, Roblox, Minecraft for 10, 15, 20 hours straight, not go to the bathroom, not eat, not do anything. And they'll just snack and just not and then once they're on those screens, there's no chance of their brain shutting off to go to sleep. There's no chance of their
Mm.
brain being able to focus on a non-preferred task tomorrow or 2 days after, 3 days after. You have a fully you know the brain develops until 30 years old. The prefrontal cortex,
Mm.
the executive functioning home, is the last to develop. So you have a fully developed brain and you see how screens affect you and how
Yeah.
you need mental breaks. Think of how bad it is for kids with half a prefrontal cortex.
Whew. Is there any like, I guess a kid with an ADHD brain or not, like, can we give our kids half an hour of Roblox if we are their buffer and setting a timer and stuff? Or is there like literally no screens are safe for children?
So they say all behavior is communication, right? So people like to use that when it works to their advantage. But let's think about this. You can try to give your kids some screens if you really need to do it, half hour of Roblox here and there, but are they then going to think about it all day long? Are they then going to follow you
Mm.
around the house and ask for more time? Are they going to have a huge mental breakdown when the timer runs out? So they're going to
Mhm.
show you with their behavior if they're ready for that high level of stimulation, period. Roblox is a very dangerous place, like we talked about before, with dangerous people on there with usernames and things like that. I've read too
Mm.
many horror stories about
Oh,
Minecraft, Roblox, and Fortnite and those things. So you have to be very careful about that. And they keep rolling out these parental controls and teen accounts and all these things, and it's all nonsense. It's all them placating to parents. But every child is different.
yeah.
ADHD is a spectrum, just like autism,
Mhm.
from mild to moderate to severe. So
Mhm.
no two kids are the same. So the rule of thumb is no. The rule of thumb is if they need to
Mhm.
take a break, let them lay on the couch and watch a show on TV with commercials. Like just
Okay.
let them do that. If they can lay on the couch, they can watch a movie, they can listen to an audiobook, they can go for a walk. There's really no legitimate reason to
Mm.
have Roblox in a child's life. It's not adding to their quality of life in any way, shape, or form. If they are asking about it, it's just because they heard about someone else playing it who's probably much more dysregulated behind the scenes than you even know.
Well, I love that you set high expectations for us as parents. Like, you will raise the bar and we will step up to it. I think we are, as we record this and as we put it out there, it's going to be April, May. We're heading into summer. So it is time. It is the time to like sit down with the other adult with a fully functioning brain in your household, if you have one, and make a plan and push yourselves and then present it to the kids. I always tell my kids, like, what would you want to do if you had a vote? And then I'll say, your opinion has been recorded. Remember, this is not a democracy,
There you
right?
go.
Like,
Yeah,
so you
yeah.
make the structure or the rules or the lack of structure and stick with it. So Mike and I are challenging you parents to really consider your summertime. And if you can have a 90s childhood, take away the video games, take away the addictive parts of the screens and have a family movie night every so often, or watch some Life Skills Now workshops because that's productive screen time, very short, not rabbit holes. Oh man. Well, Mike, you've talked about some scary stuff. You've talked about, I think, some really good stuff, but really difficult. And I want to leave parents with something positive, a message of hope. So if you could leave some encouragement for parents? What would you say?
I would say overall, one of the best things about, children is this is the time when they end up developing lifelong talents and interests. So when you do that difficult thing of removing screens, letting them be bored, the number one thing I see time and time again with the families that I do parent training with is they do the hard thing, they persevere through the 1, 2, 3 weeks of withdrawal behaviors, and
Mm.
then they end up seeing their child gain so many talents and so many interests. You have no idea if your child is an amazing musician, an amazing artist. And I can't tell you how many times when a kid ends up becoming an unbelievable athlete and parents had no idea. They thought he was just a
Wow.
totally non-athletic, clumsy,
Huh.
little kid. And they end up loving sports. They end up loving school. They end up loving going outside, exercising, making all of these things. So your child has so many talents and skills and things to contribute to this society and this world that you don't even know about yet, that are lying dormant within them. It's there. We just have to let them be bored and push them out of their comfort zone and eliminate the screens so that they can experience life and show us what they're truly capable of. So the number one thing that I want parents to leave hearing this is ADHD hope, executive
Mm.
functioning hope. ADHD is not a death sentence. It's not a sentence where, my child's going to be stuck in this rut for the rest of their lives. ADHD kids are highly capable. They can achieve all of their dreams, all of their goals, and really crush life, get a college degree, get a job, live independently, make friends, and keep friends. There is nothing an ADHD child cannot do, but
Mm.
their brain develops over those first 30 years of life, especially during puberty and the teenage years. So what we have to do is make sure they experience as much of life as possible. The name of the game is varied experiences. Make sure that every day is different. They're doing new things, trying new things, struggling, being uncomfortable, being bored, and those sorts of things. And then your ADHD child will overcome that diagnosis and achieve their dreams.
I love it. And varied experiences is, I believe, what you talk about in your Life Skills Now
You got
workshop.
it. You got it.
Parents, Mike's been talking to just you, the grown-ups with the fully functioning brains now. In your Life Skills Now workshop, Mike, talk about a little bit who you're speaking to and what people can expect, but don't give it away.
Yeah, so this is a program for parents and also to have their kids in the room as well to
Mm-hmm.
learn about the importance of varied experiences, because so much, what kids tend to do is they tend to find a very small and narrow comfort zone, which tends to be three things: Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, or their phone or YouTube, whatever it may be. They find the things where they're in full control. They find the things that are the path of least resistance, that are the easiest for them to do. And they want every single day to look the same. So I only want to be in my comfort zone 24 hours a day,
Mm.
7 days a week. And they'll come home from school and they'll emotionally manipulate and say, "Oh, I was so I worked so hard today. I was masking all day. I was holding it all in all day, all this nonsense." And parents give in and let them relax on their phone or let them relax on YouTube. No, we need
Mm.
kids to have varied experiences, because that's what goes to what I was saying before, helps them to stop letting their skills lie dormant. And
Mm.
they start, getting involved in the music, arts, the sports, cooking, cleaning, all of these things that become true life skills that they'll use for the rest of their lives. So the more your child has varied experiences, is outside of their comfort zone as much as possible, the better.
That's awesome. I was just thinking about a structure for the summer. It would be amazing to end each day and have each kid and adult in your household say, what's one thing you did today that you did not do yesterday?
Yeah, I've seen a few things online being marketed. I don't know who's doing it, but it's like a huge list of things where like
Mm.
the kids have to check it off by the end of the summer. Like one is like watch the sunrise or do
Okay.
fireworks or go surfing or do this, and you want them to check off every single thing by the end of the summer. And that's one of the coolest things I've seen.
That is neat. That is neat. Varied experiences. Well, I love it. Mike, guys, go follow Mike at Grow Now ADHD on Instagram. He is constantly feeding our brains, when we're getting the dopamine hit on social media. he's teaching us and educating and just so very good. Thank you very much for joining
Of
us.
course. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing incredible work, Katie. And thank you for all the amazing work and information you're putting out there for families.
You too, Mike. And giving parents hope for their kids for ADHD is a message we need more people waving. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Healthy Parenting Handbook podcast. I hope your brain feels fed and your heart feels full and that you feel connected, knowing that there are other parents on this journey with you. We're just trying to raise healthy, independent adults. And the next time you think, man, there is no handbook for this job. Now there is the Healthy Parenting Handbook. Look up the podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. Please leave a review, my friends, as that helps other parents who need this information to find us. And of course, subscribe. That's a huge help. You can also look for our shorts as a reel on Instagram at Katie Kimball Kids Cook, or subscribe to the Healthy Parenting Handbook Shorts channel on YouTube. You'll get those bite-sized portions of healthy parenting advice.